You're here. That's for our imaginary friend.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Friend will show up later.
Yeah. It's great to be here. It's Portico. It's great to be here with Alex, or A-Rod. A-Rod versus Alex, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But first, I think we're all dying to hear what you thought about the World Series and whether you thought that was the craziest World Series you've ever seen.
It certainly was not only the craziest, the wildest, and the best. And if you're hearing my voice crack a little bit, I'm trying to still catch up on some sleep because we were up that 18-inning game 3. I think in LA, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and people somehow were watching back home. But it was phenomenal. And it was, with the Dodgers, it kind of took a life of its own. It had a little bit of an Olympic feel because you had Canada versus the U.S. You had David versus Goliath. You had 2 great managers, but a lot of the old game that we fell in love with came back, starting pitching, hitting and running, bunting, great defense, strategic, unscripted World Series. Nothing drives me crazy more than, a front office that scripts a script at 10 o'clock in the morning, and they do that at 10 o'clock at night, no matter what happens, and they're not paying real attention to the game. So baseball's always been a thinking person's game, and the fact that we had more of that this year, I think that was one of the reasons why it was so compelling.
Do you think the Blue Jays made mistakes? Like the really viral one, where the guy was like standing too close to third base?
Yeah, those are very nuanced. I don't know if this crowd is going to really appreciate it, but what Sarah's talking about, it was a play that IKF is his nickname. He was at third base, and, he was too close to the base. The base is supposed to be here. And there's 2 plays, right? If what's your name? Yeah, Ryan? Brennan. If Brennan's hitting, there's 2 plays. One is if he hits the ball, I'm supposed to let it go through and get back to the bag. Or there's kind of like a kamikaze contact play that the minute the swing starts going, you go. And if there's a line drive, it doesn't matter. You get doubled up. So the real question is which one of those we're on, contact or let it go through. And if it was contact, it was a brutal mistake. But if he has to make it go through, then you have to be close enough to be able to get back.
Interesting, because my 8-year-old son just said he should have been standing farther away from the base.
I think he's right.
Yeah.
I think he's right.
No, but clearly this was a big success for baseball and for the World Series. Best ratings they've seen in years. How do they capitalize on this moment, do you think?
Well, first of all, I think it's like the golden age for baseball this year. I had more... we played the Knicks tomorrow, the Timberwolves, and I had all our players for the first time in 5 years say, I watched every inning of the last 3 games. I was like, what? You guys don't watch baseball? He goes, yeah, but this was so compelling. And I was noticing in my text when we do our pre- and post-game show with Big Papi and Jeter and Kevin Burkhardt, the people that reach out to me, I'm sure this happens to you when you're on TV too, is I haven't heard from this person in 9 years. Papi said that someone...
That's for me when the Dow's down more than 1,000 points. Yeah.
Or when it's up 1,000 points.
Mostly down.
But Big Papi had a great line. He said, everyone out of their mother comes out of the woodworks for tickets. He said 2 people called him for tickets that he thought were dead. And he said, you're still alive? I'm like, well, your friend must not feel very good. So needless to say, he didn't get tickets. But look, the numbers were incredible. You had 26 million people watching. You had 31.5 at the peak, which was about 11:40 when things got a little dicey. You had 11 million people watching in Canada. And just to put some context around that, there's 41 million people. So 1 out of every 4 was watching the most highly rated in the history of Canada sports. And then obviously we don't have the Japan numbers yet. So these are NFL numbers for the Major League Baseball. And a lot of it had to do because it was the game that we all fell in love with. Great starting pitching, great defense, great strategy, unscripted. And, every series, one of my mentors, a longtime producer, said, Sarah, you need the 3 S's in a big story. You need stars, you need strategy, and you need storytelling. And this had that and then some.
So speaking of stars, Shohei Ohtani, where do you rank him at this point in his career in terms of the greats?
Certainly the most unique player in the history of our sport, maybe in sports in general. Here's a young man that signed a $700 million contract, and in my opinion is grossly, by far, the most underpaid player in sports. The Dodgers are really printing money. They did over $1 billion in gross revenue, first time in Major League Baseball history that a team surpasses the $1 billion mark. As a matter of fact, of the 3 major sports are 92 teams, 30, and NFL is 32. There's 2 teams in those 92 teams that make over $1 billion in gross revenue. Obviously, the Cowboys are on 1.2, and the Dodgers made over $1 billion. So you have an NFL team economics, P&L, that just happens to be inside Major League Baseball. When you have teams like the Marlins that are probably $1.25 or $1.50. So that gap is just getting wider and wider.
And you think he should be paid more?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you could make an argument that Michael Jordan back in when Jerry Reinsdorf and him were together, you could make an argument. I think Jerry won't disagree that he could have paid Michael $100 million and he would have been worth every dollar. So, there's obviously limits on what you can pay players, but Shohei's worth that and then more. And don't feel sorry for the Blue Jays. On their side, they have baseball royalty with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who his father's a Hall of Famer, played for 17 years, never got a ring, and he just signed a contract for $500 million. So this is really, Goliath versus Goliath.
So I guess one question is, when it comes to the outlook and whether the momentum continues, if there's going to be a work stoppage in 2027.
I certainly hope not. I mean, look, baseball is my first love. We finally got some momentum that we've been trying to get for the last 10 years. Here's what I hope. I hope that they have so much momentum and they're at such a high and they've gotten so much benefits from it that this is the time to add, not subtract. So I'm definitely hopeful that between Tony Clark, the head of the Players Union, my former teammate, and Rob Manfred, who's done a wonderful job, I think they can get it together and hopefully put work stoppage behind us.
Yeah, I was going to ask overall, where you think the health of the business of baseball is right now.
I think if you're an investor, there's the greatest time. I'm a contrarian by nature. I think there's the greatest time to buy and invest into baseball. And the reason why I say that is the work stoppage makes people very nervous. But we know that history tells us, it's been around for 125 years, that we're going to get past that. And if multiples in other sports like NFL, NBA, NHL are going from anywhere from 9 to 19, and you can buy a team at 6 times, well, I think once the work stoppage gets done and you continue this wave of great young players, that number can jump from 9 back to 11, 9 to 11 somewhere. And right now it's around 6.
So are you looking to get in?
I'm not looking to. I do broadcasting in baseball. I'm in the business with the NBA and WNBA, and we're very happy there.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a little bit, because now you have 100% ownership, and that has been a battle. So what's it like to go from player to owner?
I think there's a lot of benefits. I think, players get a bad rap for not being good business people, but I think that's changing. And I think, social media and just the connection. Athletes today are smarter. They're more ambitious. They want to be great business people. They want to be great content creators. They want to produce. It's amazing how big their vessel is and how large it is. So I think from my point of view, I have an incredible partner, Mark Laurie. We're exact opposites. All the things he's great at, I'm terrible at, and vice.
Like
well,
what?
I wouldn't say
What do
vice
you guys
versa.
do?
Well, he's a number savant. He's like Elon Musk kind of mind, right? And he's incredible with numbers. He's the ultimate entrepreneur. He's taken 5 companies now from 0 to north of $1 billion. His current company today is worth $10 billion. He's raised over $2 billion. So he's really an incredible operator, savant, the ultimate entrepreneur spirit. I come from 30 years of being inside baseball and being in the locker room through ups and downs. And I think as an owner, I think about players first from the point of view of compassion and empathy and understanding how hard and difficult it is today for both our men and our women on the girls and the women's side, that I'm able to relate with them. I look a lot like them. I come, Dad left at 10. At 12, I saw my mom collecting food stamps. And at 17, I become a millionaire because I become the #1 pick in the country. So that trajectory, I think not a lot of owners may have that type of background, perhaps.
Yeah, they relate to. So what is your life like as an NBA and WNBA owner?
Well, I'm a fan first. I love the game, but they say be careful listening to the fans, or you'll become one again yourself. So you got to make you got to separate the fan and the objectivity of running 2 franchises to the best of our ability, and it always comes around having the best people in the world. Right? We brought in Tim Conley. He was the architect of the Denver Nuggets, who won the title. He's taken us from 30th to top 4 in the last 2 years with 2 Western Conference Finals back-to-back. We have one of the great young players in the game in Anthony Edwards. You know, the last 8 MVPs have all been from outside of the U.S., and he's the one American kid that went to Georgia and now is very, very marketable. He loves basketball. I saw him this morning at practice, and he's just infectious, right? He's someone you want to be around. That's why we have almost 30 games on national TV. And when we first got there 5 years ago, we had 0 games on national TV. So that's a pretty good leap. When we got there, we were 3,000 or 4,000 people in the building. Today, we're somewhere over 90, 92 consecutive sellouts. So things are moving on up. The WNBA, the Lynx are doing wonderful, and they've built a great franchise there.
There's unease in WNBA about some of the labor issues and compensation. How do you think that resolves? How should it resolve?
Yeah, I think like baseball. I mean, all these, I guess I've been through a lot of potential work stoppage over the last 30 plus years, and all these things get worked out. The bottom line is the fact that we're having labor discussions with our women who are very powerful and amazing, and that's been an amazing league for a very long time. I think you should have more eyeballs, whether it's Kaylin Clark or others that have come in to help turbocharge that. But look, bullish, I think we're going to have some uncomfortable conversation, which we're having now, but at the end, this is a sign of great business, the fact that the game is growing, they want a bigger piece of that pie, and these are all very healthy conversations that will be worked out very nicely.
Yeah, where do you see the growth going for women's sports?
I think we're really in the first inning. I think 5 years from now, if you and I, Sarah, sat here, I think every franchise is going to be worth over $1 billion, and I'm pretty certain about that.
Well, then hopefully the players will get paid more.
As they should.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to the ownership and some of the decisions you have to make, you talked about splitting them. How much time do you spend? Because you're also, doing the media business and you're a commentator pretty regularly. Like, how do you split your time on these different ventures?
Well, what's great about October, my deal with Fox, and I just renewed for 5 years, is the whole month of October, I'm consumed with playoffs and World Series. And then we do the All-Star game and maybe 2 other events. So my responsibility with Fox is about 35 days, so it's not too bad. 80% of my time, if not more, is focused on these 2 teams. We just brought in a world-class CEO that was with the Florida Panthers. They've been to 3 straight Stanley Cups. They won the last 2. He worked for my good friend Vinny Viola, who basically said, hey, Matt's ready for the next step, and he should land with you and Mark. So we were thrilled to bring him in. He runs the business, and then Tim Connolly runs the basketball, and Mark and I kind of just give the vision, the budget, and what we want out of the culture, and those guys go out and run as fast as they can, and we stay out of the way.
One of the things we talk about sometimes on CNBC is whether we're in, now we're talking about AI bubbles, but whether it's a sport bubble too. There's obviously so much interest, and the ratings for the World Series confirm that, but just these valuations continue to go up. The TV deals get bigger. What's your take on that?
Well, if you look at the wealth that's been created in this country, just in this country alone, over the last 15 years is remarkable. Probably the greatest growth in wealth creation in our history. And a lot of it is because of technology. Obviously, the Mag 7, AI is coming around the corner. And Sarah, I just saw something that was spectacular. Those last 7 games, the way it brings people together, the way you can have 60, 70 million people from around the world watching, I don't think it's going anywhere. It may not accelerate like the way it has over the last 10 years. Like if you think about Joe Lacob buying Golden State, you think about Mark Lazary buying 450 for 550, and now they're worth, close to 10 billion in Golden State. I think that's going to slow down a little bit. However, if you want that type of growth, then you go to the WNBA, because that's a growth business.
Right. Sky's the limit, though. It sounds like you think we might be peaking.
Not with WNBA.
I
think we're getting started. I think both have a tremendous amount of growth, because you got to look at it. The sports is just like the moat, and what's happening is you're building conglomerates around it, and you have people in the arena, the network, other complementary ancillary business that you can have around it. It's not just sports, right? You used to have back in the 50s. Well, I remember Jerry Reinsdorf in 1981 bought the White Sox for $16 million, and then 3 years later, 84, buys the Bulls for like 19. Like, those days are over, obviously, right? You can buy a couple friends, and usually the local car dealer owns that world's changed. You have Mark Walter, you have Kroenkes, you have some of the smartest people in the world, Todd Bowley, some of the greatest deal makers in your industry have now, come into our business and making the world a lot better.
And we've seen these sort of sport conglomerates forming. I mean, today we had Ted Leonsis on the show. Multiple owners of multiple teams, sometimes across multiple leagues. Is that a good thing?
I think it's a great thing because you can have back office, you can create a lot of leverage. I love the Ted Leonsis model because it's in one market. I think what Josh Harris and Blitz is incredible, but also incredibly challenging, right? Because it's hard to scale when you're in 5 states for 5 teams. So that's a little bit more challenging. But this is a common theme that you're going to see more and more and more.
I guess the scale helps when it comes to investing around things like technology. I mean, what are the other growth opportunities that you see for the NBA? International?
I think people. I'm sorry, not people. I think definitely global. Obviously, gaming is a hot topic, but that's not going away. It keeps people very interested. You see what it's done for the NFL. When you look at NBA is very invested in Africa. We're back in business in China, which is great. And I just think content around these players. I mean, if you think Anthony Edwards, we don't know a lot of our players. That's one thing I think baseball needs to do a lot more of. We want to see what Shohei Ohtani, we want to see what his dog's name is. It's just, my daughters are like, but Dad, I want to know more about him. I don't care about his swing. My daughters want to know about the personal side. And one of the things we can do as content creators or facilitators is take the helmet off these great stars and find out who they are, what makes them tick, how they got here, what is their story, where do they come from, because that's how we inspire the next generation.
It's like everybody needs a drive to survive.
That's right.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Yeah, I mean that's how we get to know the people. You mentioned gaming, betting. Did NBA rush into this? What do you think is what happened there?
Well, I can't really speak about the NBA, but what I will tell you is gaming has been around for a long time. If baseball started, I think in 1876, the first gaming controversy was a year later, 1877. And baseball's still around, right? People talk about it as an iceberg, sometimes an ice cube. But I can't really talk about the NBA per se. But one thing I will tell you about technology with, DraftKings, FanDuel, all these, great companies, we can find out now in hours if something's going wrong versus 10 years ago could have probably taken us 5 years. So 5 hours versus 5 years, I think that's a good thing. And we just want more transparency. You can't get away with any hiding ball tricks. Things are going to come out. You might as well get out in front of it, deal with it, and move forward. So
in other words, ultimately a good thing for the sport. I saw NHL just did a deal with Polymarket and Kalshi. I mean, there's a lot of experimenting going on.
Well, I mean, they're there, right? And they're going to do it. And either they're going to do it in the black market or the real market. And how do we all get a piece of that? How does the government get their piece? But I think transparency and technology brings up a lot more of the warts that we, in the past, would probably not be able to catch. We catch them in real time now.
I mean, you have so much going on in the world of business. I am curious, Alex, how you made that pivot from retiring to what's next. What did that look like for you?
Well, I think, look, for me, ever since I was 10, 12 years old, I've always had kind of 2 dreams, and I call them the 2 Bs, baseball and business. And I'm lucky enough that, I saw my dad left, like I said, at 10. At 12, I saw food stamps with my mom and struggling. And I always wanted to say, I want to work hard enough to make sure my mom retires, right? That was kind of my inspiration. And I think with athletes, it's like Mark and I are good partners because we have complementary set of skills. Probably like Big Papi and I being partners or Aaron Judge and I being partners to buy the team, probably not the best. Aaron Judge and Todd Bowley can probably be a better partnership. Me and Mark Laurie. So it's about finding the right people that kind of complement your set of skills, and how do 1 + 1 = 3. And I think more athletes are doing that today, and I admire them for that.
How do you find that? How do you find people to partner with or to be mentored by? Because I know that's a big thing for you, too.
Well, it's hard, right? Because a lot of people have the gifts of gab. But you really have to take your time and understand who are the kind of the blue chip people out there that have great character, have a moral compass, that are going to do things the right way, and have a history that's going to elevate your platform, and your history should elevate his or her platform. So it's a lot of networking. You kiss a lot of frogs, and hopefully at one point you find the right one.
So you have a docuseries coming out on Thursday. Congratulations. What can we expect here? And why did you do this project now?
I think because, Sarah, I have an interesting story, and I think, some of the people that were at my premiere last night said, boy, I didn't know that you were a phenom at 15. I just thought like you showed up at third base and you started screwing up and making mistakes and you got suspended. But the truth about it is there's an incredible arc to my story. And as a person, you know, Mike Francesa, you guys know, who's the legendary radio personality here for the last 40 years, he had a great line in the documentary which said, I'm paraphrasing, A-Rod is a Shakespearean figure, and he was a very flawed man. And I think that's exactly accurate. And I kind of get into my therapy, my suspension, the lessons learned, how much I've changed. And it's a really human story that goes up and down, that this person happened to play baseball, not the other way around. So, and I hope that the next generation can look at my mistakes and hopefully avoid the mistakes that I made.
What was that like having, I mean, it sounds like it was almost therapeutic going through making this.
It was worse than that. I mean, we kind of, I'm 50 now, so I try to tell my daughters that I have amnesia a little bit and I forget some things. But when you see it in the big screen, like last night, literally, I had my girlfriend on one side, Cynthia, who's the mother of my kids, and we were married for 7 years, together for 13. She was in front of me. She's my best friend in the world. She has a wonderful relationship with my partner, Jack. And literally, I was holding both their hands so tight because I was sweating bullets. Because I'm like, I'm trying to forget that. I forgot that. But it's bringing, it's very triggering.
How did they react to the...
Cringing. Oh, they were just very supportive. And look, I actually think that, when people look at this, they're going to see how flawed I am as a human being and how hard I've worked at trying to rewire the brain through deep therapy for the last 10 years. And I say on good days, I'm rounding second base, but my daughters remind me that I'm actually rounding first base if I'm lucky.
I mean, not a lot of people want to go out and make films about their flaws. Why did you feel like you needed to do this?
I entered the league as an 18-year-old, which only 3 players in the history of the sport that's been around for about 140 years have played in the big leagues at 18. And sometimes I don't give myself enough credit. And through therapy, what I realized was the question comes up is, when are you going to forgive yourself? And how much of yourself or your mistakes are you going to forgive? And I said, when you're 50 and you're able to look back and you look at, I was 18, and I walked into all this money and all these things that I wasn't used to, and I didn't have the right role models. I've forgiven myself for everything. I've done okay. I've done pretty good. And yes, I cost myself the Hall of Fame, but I believe I'm a better human being. I believe I'm a better father. I'm a better partner, and I've grown tremendously through my failures.
I think you've done okay. I think everyone here would agree with that. So, I mean, you've had so much success in all your ventures in baseball, post-baseball. What's the piece of advice that you give young athletes when it comes to investing or getting into business?
Well, I mean, I just did a documentary. It does not give me a license to give anyone any advice. But the one thing I would say is all about people. Any business you get into, the Dodgers won because they have the best people, the best talent, all of it, right? So you're an average of those 5 people you surround yourself with. Take your time. Slower is better than faster. Take small bites. It's like a boat. If a boat's going really slow and you crash, there's a little bump. But if you're going 50, it's over, right? So I think about the same thing about investing. And don't be in a hurry. I think that's the one thing that everyone wants everything right now. And this generation that we have, they want it right now. And it's just like, think about that, a 40, 50-year marathon. And I've worked some deals for like 15 years, and I haven't gotten them. And I don't care. I don't think it's wasted time. I think you got to bring those characters and those that ingredient you had as an athlete into the boardroom, and I think it will serve you very well if you're patient and if you surround yourself with the right people.
What investment are you most excited about right now?
The Timberwolves and the Lynx.
Besides that,
we have this. Mark and I founded this company called Jump. And the idea of Jump is like we were the kids that would sneak in because the ushers were really old in Miami. So we would sneak into the Orange Bowl. That's where the Miami Dolphins and the Hurricanes used to play. And the ushers, like the average age was probably like 92, and we were like 10. So we were quicker than them. So we would jump the fence and get in there, and we would be there. And then we would sit all the way in the upper deck. And it would be so frustrating, like in the second half, it was a blowout. You have all these like seats down there, either by home plate or by like the sidelines that would be empty. So the idea was like, wouldn't it be great if we Uberize arenas and stadiums, that if you think about what's happening with Airbnb and Uber outside of stadiums and arenas, we're trying to bring that, because if you go into an arena today, it's just like 1980s. Nothing's really changed besides different sponsorships. So, Sarah, if you and I are sitting in the upper deck and we paid $5 for our seats, and somebody on the floor jumps off, your app and Jump would say, Alex and Kelly just left. You have 2 seats. You can press it, and if it's a fourth quarter, you can sit in the last 4 minutes for like $80. So now you get your selfie. Those seats cost $5,000. You got them for $80, and everyone wins. And when we leave, it gets green, and when we're not, it's red.
That's really interesting, because ticket prices
around.
have gotten so expensive.
Right.
So is this out yet?
Yeah, we're using it for the Timberwolves and the Lynx, and we're talking to a lot of owners who are wanting to, like, not necessarily get rid of Ticketmaster, but like, be more friendly, less expensive, better to use. And by the way, if you can't afford to come in maybe in the first quarter, in the second quarter, you can come in for 25% of the price, right? And you can watch 2.5 quarters or 3.5.
But someone has to leave.
Or they never showed up.
Or they never showed up.
Just like Airbnb, you can rent your house. Well, you can rent your seat.
Well, Alex, wishing you lots of luck on that and success. And I think I speak for everyone in saying this was a treat. So thank you very much for sharing your stories and all of your advice and what you've been up to.
Thank you, Sarah.
Good to
Thank
talk
you
to
guys.
you. Thank you all.